Good afternoon. This is the reporting of Group 3. The three topics of our reporting is policies on agrarian reform, land ownership in the Philippines under the Spain, land ownership in the Philippines under the American.
Policies on agrarian reform. Policies on agrarian reform in the Philippines. The Agrarian Reform Program is founded on the right of farmers and regular farm workers who are landless to own directly or collectively the lands they till, or, in the case of other farm workers, to receive a just share of the fruits thereof. To this end, the state shall encourage and undertake the just distribution of all agricultural lands, subject to the priorities and retention limits set forth in this Act, having taken into account ecological, developmental, and equity consideration, and subject to the payment of just compensation. The state shall be respect the right of small landowners and shall provide incentives for voluntary land sharing. The Philippines Republic Act Number 6657, which institute the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program or CARP, declares two objectives in this title: to promote social justice and to promote industrialization. Section 2 of this act is more specific by pronouncing the welfare of landless farmers and farm workers will receive highest consideration to promote social justice and to move the nation towards sound rural development and industrialization. To this end, a more equitable distribution and ownership of land shall be undertaken to provide farmers and farm workers with the opportunity to enhance their dignity and improve the quality of their lives through greater productivity of agricultural lands. What is the importance of policies on agrarian reform in the Philippines? Agrarian reform is important to rural democratization and the land-dependent rural poor's enjoyment of basic human rights. Philippine society is shaped by a land power structure and regional rural elites. Control of vast tracts of land serves as their ticket to elective office. Agrarian reform has contributed to improvement of the socio-economic conditions of landless farmers and political development of the Philippines in terms of engaging the landless in the process of policy making and distribution of large private land holdings to the landless.
Ownership in the Philippines under Spain. Historically, land-related remedies extended by the past regimes and administrators proved to be totally unable to fulfill the promise of alleviating the quality of life of the landless peasants. The land laws have invariably contained provisions that enable powerful landowners to circumvent the law, or even use the law to sustain and further strengthen their position in power. Fernando de Magellan landed in the island of Cebu in 1521 and claimed the land for Spain. In 1565, Spain took control of the island and named them in honor of Philip II of Spain, who reigned from 1556 to 1598. What was the type of land ownership during Spanish period? Land ownership was communal in pre-Hispanic Philippine society. Land was owned by the barangay or the village, and individuals had the rights to use the land and make it productive. The Spaniards introduced private ownership through the granting of legal titles. How was the Philippines treated under Spanish rule? The Philippine colony was governed by Spaniards by laws made in Spain and for the sole good of the mother country and its representative in the colony. Filipinos held only minor offices. They were not given the benefits of public education, and their rights and wishes were almost completely ignored.
Ownership in the Philippines under the Americans. Manila, May 28, almost 7,000 acres of Philippine land owned by United States citizens are being turned over to Philippine companies as a result of the expiration yesterday of palliative rights enjoyed by Americans. party with the Filipinos in the land ownership and the exploitation of natural resources was among special privilege for United States citizens that the Philippines traded for rehabilitation funds and market references under the bilateral trade agreement of 1946. This expired in July 1974, but the government of President Ferdinand E. Marcos gave a 10-month extension for landowners. Upon the lapse of the privilege yesterday, 65 landowners, including subsidiaries of big American corporations, submitted plans for transferring their lands to Filipinos. The Secretary for Industry, Vicente Paterno, said today the land have an appraised value of $46 million. Goodyear Tire and Rubber, Singer Sewing Machine, and three American-owned oil companies, Caltex, Jetty, and Mobil, have completed the transfers of their lands. The 60 other landowners are complying with the new ownership requirements. The government has offered several plans under which the American landowners are able to lease back their lands for as long as 50 years and to retain ownership of buildings and other improvements. The American Chamber of Commerce reacted to the divestment requirement by complying without opposition. It reportedly felt that the continued operation of factories and other ventures on the lands was far more important than the issue of ownership.
How was the land ownership done in pre-colonial period? Land ownership. Land was commonly owned by the community known as barangay. This is a small unit of government consisting of 30 to 100 families administered by the chiefs. Everyone in the barangay, regardless of status, had access on the land and mutual shares resources. And the fruit of their labor, the United States Congress, influenced by agricultural interests that did not want competition from the Philippines. In the 1902 Land Act set a limit of 16 hectares of land to be sold or leased to American individual and 1,024 hectares to American corporation. How did not American Agrarian manage land ownership in the Philippines? American period. Instead, the United States Congress, influenced by agricultural interested that did not want competition from the Philippines, in the 1902 Land Act, set a limit of 16 hectares of land to be sold or leased to American individuals and 1,024 hectares to American corporation.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening and have a great day.